Hello and welcome back to another session on cybersecurity. In this session, we'll be taking a look at the use of the inbuilt database for Metasploit. We will look at the inbuilt database support for Metasploit. So we have an inbuilt database that's PostgreSQL. So we'll see how we can use PostgreSQL database for storing the results that we attain using Metasploit. So for this, I'm going to use Kali Linux. So Kali Linux comes with inbuilt with Metasploit. Let's start Metasploit sudo msf console. So let me enter the password. So we are starting Metasploit here, and I'm also going to use another system, that is Metasploitable 2 for it will be my victim system, so on which I'm going to perform some scans. So these are the two machines, and the IP address for my victim, as you're seeing, the IP address is 192.168.226.4. That is the IP address of my victim. Let's see what is the IP address of Kali Linux. So the IP address of Kali Linux is 192.168.226.3. So we're going to have Metasploit running on Kali Linux in this IP address 192.168.226.3, and here we have Metasploit, and the first thing we're going to check is the database state. Are we connected to PostgreSQL? So we'll check that by using database db underscore status command. See, we are not connected. There's no connection. So how is that we start off with this is we first initialize the database, that is msfdb init. So this is the command that will create the schema, the username, the database, the passwords, everything for us, so that we can directly use Metasploit with PostgreSQL. So what is the use of this command? This command will create schemas, usernames, passwords, everything that is required for us to use the database with Metasploit. So why is that we have a PostgreSQL support for Metasploit is when we are scanning the victim systems, we would like to store the results of the vulnerabilities, of the ports that are open, the services, of the files that we have got from a victim, the credentials that you have received from a victim. Everything can be stored inside a database that is supported by Metasploit. That's the PostgreSQL. The very first command we're going to run is msfdb init. So what is the use of msfdb init? It will initialize and create the schemas and everything that is required for us to use PostgreSQL. So we are starting the database, so it will start creating all the required things. So I've already run this command, so the database is available, configured, and it is already initialized. So when you're running it for the first time, you will see a lot of schema creation and username creation details here. After that, we'll again check the database status, db underscore status. So it's going to say connected to MSF, connection type is PostgreSQL. In case you're getting no connection here, just log out of Metasploit and log in again. So you'll be able to see connected to MSF. Now we are connected to the database we have created. Now what are the other things that we can do? Let me clear the screen. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scan this victim machine 192.168.226.4. For scanning, normally we use nmap and then the target IP. Now we are going to have this DB support, so we'll perform the scan using this command db underscore nmap, and then we'll mention the victim's IP. What is our victim's IP here? It is 192.168.226.4. So let's mention that 192.168.226.4. So we are performing a scan of our victim, and it says database not connected. Let's again check the database status, db underscore status. Okay. Let's again try this command, db underscore nmap 192.168.226.4. So we'll just exit this. If we face some issues, we'll again restart Metasploit. So as I told you, once when you run this msfdb init command, it's better to restart your Metasploit and then again check the status. So let's again check the status. So it's connected. Now let us run our db underscore nmap command 192.168.226.4. See, now it is running and it has scanned our victim system. So what is that I've done is I just exited Metasploit and I've logged in again. In case if you're getting some connection issues and you have run your msfdb init command, and if you're getting some connection issues, just log out and log in again of Metasploit so that it works fine. So here I have scanned the results, and these results are stored in our PostgreSQL database now. So how is that you can see all the results is you can just type the command hosts. So now it brings the data about the host that we have scanned. So this is the IP address of my Metasploitable 2 machine, that is my victim machine. You can see it's 192.168.226.4, and this is the MAC address. So whichever host we are scanning, the data of the hosts are stored inside PostgreSQL. We can bring the data about these hosts using the command hosts. We can also try and bring all the ports that we have scanned for a host or the services that we have scanned using the command services. So this brings the data about the hosts and the services that we have scanned. So this is the host IP, and these are the ports that are open in that specific IP. So what is that we are doing with PostgreSQL is we are storing the results of the hosts and the services, the credentials inside the database. And now let us take a look at Creds. What is the use of this command Creds? This is actually used for storing the usernames and passwords that we have cracked by using Metasploit. So let's take a look at this. Let's search for FTP login. FTP underscore login. So that's one of the modules. Let's use this module. So we've already seen how to use auxiliary modules using Metasploit. If you're not clear with all these things, I'll be leaving the link for that video in the description below. Have a look at it. So now we'll take a look at auxiliary modules, just finding the credentials for FTP login. So let's take a look at show options. So we need to set the remote host IP, and the remote port is 21. We'll use the username as msfadmin, user as password. So when we set this to be true, it'll take the username and try it as password, and it will try logging into the victim. So let's set some options, set rhost to be the victim 192.168.226.4, and set username. Username will be msfadmin, and we'll set user as pass. So this is going to check the username to be password to be true, and then we will perform this exploit. So this you see now it is capturing some credentials. msfadmin is the username and msfadmin is the password, and it was able to attempt this thing on this specific IP on this port number. So once when we have captured all these credentials, the credentials are automatically stored inside our database on PostgreSQL, and that's what we are seeing here. So for this IP and on this port number for this service, this is the username, this is the password. So that is what we are storing using this specific command. See, we will be able to bring all the credentials using Creds, CREDS. And what are the things we can really store? So we can also store the vulnerabilities that we find in systems. Let me go back. So let me search for a vulnerability. Say we'll search for an exploit, VSFTPD 2.3.4. So again, how to use this exploit and the purpose of this exploit I've explained in another video lecture. I'll be leaving the link for that video lecture in the description below. Please have a look at it. For now, we'll just see how we can use this exploit against a victim. It is an exploit that cracks an outdated FTP service on the victim. So we'll take a look at this. We'll use this exploit, and we'll take a look at the options. The options will be we need to set the payload and the uh, remote host IP. So remote host IP is a victim's IP. So let's clear screen. Let's set our host, remote host to be 192.168.226.4, and let's set payload. We'll just set the payload and then we'll go with exploit. So here what we are trying to do is we are trying to exploit that vulnerable FTP service running on that victim, and we'll be able to uh, identify that as a vulnerability. So this is a vulnerability in a victim. Suppose you want to know all the vulnerabilities that you have cracked earlier, you have to type this command vulns. So this is going to store the details about that specific vulnerability, in which specific IP, and what is the vulnerability and the references to that vulnerability. So we have taken a look at many things here. What are the things? We have taken a look at hosts, which stores the details of the host that we have scanned, services, which gives us details of all the services and the ports, whether they are open or not. And then we have taken a look at vulnerabilities, which gives us data about the vulnerabilities that exist in a victim, which is stored on PostgreSQL database. And we have taken a look at Creds. This is used for storing the credentials that we have cracked. For instance, we have cracked the FTP login credentials and we have stored that inside this. There's also one more thing that comes with post exploitation, that is loot. So what is the use of loot is if you have taken some content from a victim and that specific content is stored here. Say for instance, you may take out some files, download things like that. So that is actually stored as part of loot, and this is with respect to post exploitation. So there are other things that you can do with this specific database support. You can add notes about a specific victim, about a specific vulnerability. For instance, let me tell you how to add a note on a specific vulnerability. Say you can give notes and then -a and then the IP of that victim, 192.168.226.4, and then we can give the type. What is the type? Say it's a vulnerability. The information I'm going to enter is about a vulnerability in this victim, and -n actually the text content. So it's about a vulnerability. So you can leave some notes corresponding to a victim about the information. It can be on a vulnerability, it can be on a credential, it can be some notes that you want to have about a victim. So you can leave notes like this. So notes get added. If you want to view the notes, just type in notes and you see we have entered the vulnerability about this host is gets getting recorded in our PostgreSQL database. So this is just a note that we want to leave about this host. So I hope you are able to follow all these commands. Now let us move on to another important concept called workspace. What is the use of workspace? So workspace, you see, by default, there is a default workspace. So all the results that we are having here is stored inside this default workspace. So you may have a lot of clients. Say if I am having a client by name Satish and I want to scan all this systems in his network and I want to store the results of that specific scan inside a different workspace, I can do that. So for that, I should add a workspace. Adding a workspace is workspace -a and then the client name. I'll just give my name Satish here. So I've added a workspace, and now let us take a look at the workspaces available. So we have 3 workspaces available. Now by default, the workspace which I created has been selected. See, now I am inside workspace Satish, and what is the use of this workspace? If I just give host, there are no hosts here because it's a new workspace. So let's perform this scan db underscore nmap 192.168.226.4. So now we have performed a scan, and this scan, the results will be stored under this workspace. So let's take a look at hosts now. So you see the results that we have performed right now is stored under this specific scan. So whatever scans we have performed, the results are stored inside the database, inside this workspace. So we can always switch workspace by giving the workspace name. Say workspace, say if I give default, the workspace that is selected now is the default workspace. So the results that we have run are stored within this workspace. If we select this workspace and if we perform scans, the results will be stored under this workspace. So for each client, you can create a different workspace, and the results of those scans will be stored in those workspaces for those specific clients. So we segregate the results in under workspaces so that we can perform scans without overlapping each other. So how you delete a workspace is, say if I want to delete the workspace VIT, I give workspace icon D and then the workspace name. So workspace is deleted. So that's about the use of workspaces in Metasploit with respect to PostgreSQL. And we'll wind up this session with two more basic commands, that is msfdb reinit. So we'll come to reinit. Before that, we can also stop db underscore disconnect. So this will disconnect the database connection. So we have disconnected. There's also one more thing called msfdb start. msfdb stop. This is going to stop the database. So once when you stop the database, you can reinitialize the database. What do you mean by reinitializing is clearing all the data and creating the schemas back and creating the schemas, databases, usernames, password, everything. So how is that you can reinitialize the databases msfdb and reinit. So this is going to reinitialize the database. It's going to drop all the existing databases as you're seeing, and then it's going to start creating the database like it's new. So we have the database MSF, you have the schemas, you have the usernames, passwords, everything created here. So this is the command that we use for reinitializing the database. Whereas when you're running it for the first time, what is that you're going to use? msfdb init. The only thing is if some status comes as no connection, just log out and log into Metasploit so that you get this support. So I think you are able to follow all the commands that we have seen right now, and we still have further more commands. I leave it for your own practice. With that, we are coming to an end of this session. If you have any questions, please leave those questions as comments below. I'll be looking at it. And that's it for now. Have a great day.